Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning, and welcome to another Sunday morning on Faith in Our Hometown. Here on this spring weekend, as we're getting ready to approach Easter, for many of us, Holy Week begins this week. And so on this Passion Sunday, it's kind of interesting that we're talking about Operation Christmas Child. So this is just to keep you all on your toes and see whether you're paying any attention. But Operation Christmas Child is one of those wonderful charities that people prepare for all year round and to make a difference for other people, other places in the world. And so my guests this morning are going to be Jeff and Ellen Gibson, who are the area coordinators for Operation Christmas Child. And we're going to be talking a little bit this morning about what that's all about, those acts of love and how those acts of love can be done for other kids around the world. And we're going to be right back in a few moments to talk about that right after this Mercy Minute. So don't go away. We're going to be talking about Operation Christmas Child, and we'll be right back.
The different bariatric surgical options here at Mercy Joplin includes laparoscopic room-wide gastric bypass, laparoscopic sleeve gastrectomy, and laparoscopic lap band placement. In addition, we also offer revisional laparoscopic surgeries for those patients that have had previous bariatric procedures but have had failures. The surgical procedure of choice will vary with different individuals, and so that's why our team will work with the patient on an individual basis to determine which procedure is the best fit for them. All three of the bariatric procedures that we offer here at Mercy Joplin have a long track record of proven safety and efficacy. The best procedure for the individual has to be a decision to be decided between the patient and the physician.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning here on Faith in Our Hometown. My guests this morning, Jeff and Ellen Gibson, who are the area coordinators for Operation Christmas Child. Everybody's be saying, well, has the man lost his mind? He's talking about Operation Christmas Child the week before Easter. So, but at any rate, tell us, first introduce yourselves, and then tell us a little bit about Operation Christmas Child.
Sure. Well, I'm Jeff Gibson.
And I'm Ellen Gibson.
Samaritan's Purse is a non-denominational Christian relief organization that's led by Franklin Graham, who's the son of the late Billy Graham. There are several projects that Samaritan's Purse has.
Right.
And there are a couple of them that I want to mention. One of them is kind of unique. It's Operation Heal Our Patriots. And it's actually a retreat or a resort area in Alaska where folks that have come back from a tour of duty overseas can go to heal from that experience and spend time with their spouse. And then a second ministry that folks in Joplin may be familiar with, and that's the disaster relief part of Samaritan's Purse. Shortly after the tornado, Samaritan's Purse was here for a number of weeks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we worked with them. I know we worked closely with them for a while through Catholic Charities and a few other things. So yeah, we were doing a lot of things. And those are just two of the things. So this is all under Samaritan's Purse, which is the large umbrella organization, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so well, I didn't know about the Alaska one, so that's kind of cool.
Yes.
And God loved Dr. I will say, I was a bigger fan of his dad, but I'm here to tell you,
Sure.
The late Billy Graham, God love him. I mean, the work he did, and what positive messages of Christianity that he spread for
Sure.
so many years.
Sure.
I was a big fan. I mean, But so that's Samaritan's Purse. That's the big one.
Right.
Okay, that's the overall organization.
Right.
So interesting that they got their hands in lots of things, but certainly Samaritan's Purse we worked with, right after the tornado
Right.
a lot when
Right.
they were here in the area for a long time.
Right.
But you guys are involved in a different, kind of a different aspect of that organization, correct?
Right.
And that's this Operation Christmas Child that we're going to talk about today.
Right. Operation Christmas Child collects shoe boxes filled with school supplies, non-liquid hygiene items, and small toys, and delivers them to needy children around the world, using them as a tool to share God's love with those children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's an easy way that anybody can participate in, an easy way to help someone on the other side of the world and to share God's love with them.
Sure. And, not done in necessarily a preachy way, but just kind of like to say, here's a
Sure.
gift because it's Christmas. We believe in Christmas. God loves you. So do we.
Right.
Here's something,
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, how long have you guys been working with Samaritan's Purse and in this area?
About 3 years. We started, our church serves as a drop-off location for Operation Christmas Child. We started as the coordinators for the drop-off location, and then the last 2 years we've served as the coordinator for a 12-county area in southwest Missouri and southeast Kansas.
Yeah, so this is like anybody can do this. Any
Anybody.
church, any individual,
Right.
anybody, because you have these drop-off centers where
Sure.
people can pack a box and then just bring it to you
Sure.
all
Right.
and have it work. So
Right.
again, something that any of our viewers could do individually, or if any of them want to, many of them belong to their women's organizations or men's organizations or whatever, they could maybe get the group to do it. I know several years ago, one of our women in our women's council decided that they wanted to take part in this project a few years ago,
Yeah.
and so that was one of their little focuses for getting ready for Christmas. Now, of course, obviously, this happens year round.
Right.
It takes a lot to deliver all these boxes somewhere around the world.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And a lot of planning goes into it. They work with teams in the receiving countries who work with the local church, setting up the distribution events, and those take place all year long.
All year long, yeah.
There are actually more volunteers on the international side of the equation than there are actually in the States.
Interesting.
A lot of training goes on internationally to get ready for these boxes when they come.
Yeah. So I know we have a little bit of a video of one of the people that received one of those boxes, and I know you guys have got a lot more to the story about that. But maybe if we get that queued up, this story is about a young man who received one of these boxes, and then later went on to become a volunteer
Right.
for
That's
the
correct.
organization,
Right.
which I think is kind of cool. So if we can get that queued up, that would be great. And maybe we can just watch this quick video. It's about 2 minutes, but it's really cool. I watched it the other day, and I really enjoyed it. So.
To my orphanage to hand out shoe boxes. My name is Alex. I was born and raised in the country of Rwanda. As a little boy, I was raised by my grandmother, who loves me very much. During that time, Rwanda was going through a lot of war, and my grandmother and my uncle, the two people who were left to take care of me, were both killed during this war. Through miracles happening during this war, God protecting me, I was put in an orphanage. And while I was in this orphanage, Operation Christmas Child wanted to do something for the few of the orphans who were left in this by this war. And I remember how excited I was when Operation Christmas Child pulled in and handed out these gifts, and the joy that each and every one of us had in that orphanage. That gift for me personally planted seeds of hope and love that a year later, while I was traveling with the African Children's Choir, I saw those seeds grow. And I started to have a hunger to know the Lord. And about that time, that's when I gave my life to Christ, and realizing that God had a plan for my life. And then God provided me with a family. In 2013, I was given a great opportunity to travel back to my orphanage to hand out shoe boxes. It was such a blessing to stand in the same place that I stood as a 7-year-old, and this time to hand out a shoebox and just to see the joy on the kids' faces, and it was such a great moment for me. I want to thank each and every person who packs a gift. Specifically, I would say even in my own language, Murakoze cyane. Each and every time you pack that gift is a moment to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because when you pack that gift, it reminds a child that they are not forgotten, that they are loved, that someone thinks about them. Not just someone, but their Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ. Please keep packing them, but also thank you for what you've done so far.
Again, a wonderful video. I mean, you guys have had the opportunity to meet Alex.
We have,
right?
we have.
So yeah, talk a little bit about him and his life. I mean, we got to hear his own testimony on the screen a little bit, but what was your experience in meeting him, and how did that make you feel in terms of what you do?
It's pretty exciting to get to meet someone who's received a shoebox. It certainly makes it, come home and feel like you've done a worthwhile thing.
Sure.
You sometimes don't know the end results of the project, and they're always so appreciative and tell more each time that we hear him talk about his story.
Alex has a funny story to tell about his shoebox. There's a candy cane in his shoebox, and he was totally unfamiliar with what a candy cane was from where he was. And so that cellophane wrapper that was on the candy cane, he didn't realize that was meant to come off of it. So he consumed the candy cane cellophane wrapper and all.
With the cellophane wrapper.
Yeah.
Well, that's different. And, you know.
But a memory that he has.
Well, I'll tell you what, once he got past it, it probably tasted pretty good.
Yes,
It did.
it does.
Yeah. So in terms of that, you say he's from Rwanda,
Yes.
and so he was in the orphanage, I guess, because of the, you know, the genocide and all those things that were going on over there.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
His family was subjected to the genocide, and he actually witnessed part of his family losing their life. And that set things in motion for he and a couple of his siblings to have to flee. And they, Kajali was the town that they lived in, and they spent some time in the hillsides around the city, you know, fleeing the militia that was there. And eventually they did make it to an aunt's home in the city, and but she became ill. And so it was shortly thereafter that he and his siblings ended up in the orphanage. And there were actually, he tells the story, there were 250 kids in the orphanage. And, you know, there were not very many resources to go around. And I mean, and to really hear him tell the story, he wonders, you know, why is God sparing my life? Because there just seems to be no hope, nothing for me to live for. And I think that was what was so exciting for him, was when when the word came around that these boxes were coming from folks in America, that somebody actually did care and loved him. And so it really, it instilled a sense of hope in him.
Isn't that interesting, you know, that you know, I think we you know, we live in a land of so many blessings and so much abundance.
Right.
And for, you know, to hear a story like that just says, you know, the simple acts of things that we wouldn't really think that much of. I mean, you know, I remember, you know, collecting boxes and doing a few things a couple years ago when our women's council did this, and I mean, you know, there was nothing to what we put in those boxes.
Sure.
I mean, you know, it was just, I mean, a little bit here and a little bit there, but I mean, it was nothing.
Right.
And then to think that, you know, but that somehow that random act of receiving a gift from somebody somewhere around the world gave somebody a little bit of joy and a little bit of hope is really kind of amazing.
This last fall, just to give some dimension to the magnitude of what's going on, there were 11,012,000 boxes collected this last fall that will be distributed during the upcoming year. And so the sheer logistics of that is pretty amazing. There are 8 processing centers in the United States, and I think we mentioned that our home church is a collection point here in the 12-county area. From there, we load those cartons onto boxes, and they go to onto trucks, and they go to a processing center. There are 8 processing centers in the U.S., and they actually go through every one of those boxes to make sure that they're qualitative and ready to go.
Yeah, so if something's missing, they'll do it, or if they put something in it that wasn't supposed to be in there or whatever.
Right.
Absolutely,
Absolutely. They got to be able, because otherwise, if you're shipping stuff around the world and you got something that's perishable in there, woo!
Yeah.
So, interesting, very interesting. Well, we are talking with Jeff and Ellen Gibson about Operation Christmas Child, and so in the next half, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how you might be involved in the project and do some of those things, you know, to maybe be one of those churches or an individual that participates. But we're going to be right back after a real quick break. Be sure not to go away. We'll be right back.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Well, again, thanks for sticking with us on another Sunday morning. Again, Jeff and Ellen Gibson, my guests, who are the local area coordinators for Operation Christmas Child, which is a kind of a division, if you will, of Samaritan's Purse. So let's talk a little bit about the box. So, like, how would somebody go about doing something like this if they wanted to get involved and send some boxes, or even one box from their own family or whatever? How would they do that?
Well, the first thing you need is a shoebox. It can be a box that you got shoes in, or it can, a lot of people like to use plastic because then the box itself is a gift and the children can use it to carry water or store things. So you can buy a shoebox sized plastic box. And Samaritan's Purse also has some cardboard boxes. They come flat. You can get them in packages of 100 from Samaritan's Purse. This box was new last year. You can also get them from Samaritan's Purse, or Hobby Lobby will have them after Labor Day. But this box has been specifically designed to withstand the heat and cold extremes that shoeboxes are sometimes exposed to, either in the delivery process or after they get there. So you get your shoebox, you decide if you want to pack for a boy or a girl, and then there's 3 age groups.
It's in a little label here.
Right.
So you fix this one of this. You get these for every individual for each box. Huh?
Right. This label I printed online. You can follow your box. They ask for a small donation to help cover the cost of shipping, and if you make that donation online, you can print this label with a barcode. So then when they are ready to ship your box, they will send you an email and tell you can go on and look up then and tell where your box,
where it's going.
what country.
Well, that's kind of cool.
It's been kind of exciting. From the boxes collected this last fall, we've had several reports that our boxes in this area this year have gone to Namibia, which is a country near South Africa and on the very southern coast of Africa, and so it's been kind of fun to get those reports back.
Sure. Well, it is kind of fun to see where everything's going. So,
Yeah.
so like what? So the kinds of things that you'd put in a box.
Well, go ahead.
No.
I've packed this box for an older boy, age 10 to 14. And so you would just put in school supplies, small toys. They suggest a wow item. So I've got a flattened soccer ball here.
Soccer balls are always
Soccer
popular.
balls are popular.
There's a space here when you flatten the soccer ball for something. So I put a t-shirt in there just to make some room. And then I'm also sending a pump so they can blow it back up when they get there.
Good.
Then you do school supplies. I've got pencils and scissors, an eraser in here, a pencil sharpener, a washcloth and soap.
School supplies, we hear stories
Yes.
of children that were in need of school supplies so that they could attend, and when they opened their box, the things they needed were there, and those are really cool stories.
Well, again, sometimes take campus ministry trips, to other places, and again, same thing. It's just like and again, I would have probably not been real happy if I'd have received pencils for
Right.
Christmas.
Right.
But I got news for
Yeah.
you. We did the school shopping thing. So to not have any of those supplies and then to be able to receive some of those
Right.
would be kind of exciting. To be able to receive some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know that I've been on a service trip yet where we didn't wind up playing soccer with kids.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
kind of like one of those world sports.
Yeah.
Yep. So all kinds of colored pencils,
Yeah.
Crayons,
The
all kinds of fun things.
Flashlight and extra
yeah.
batteries. I like to send the little balsa airplanes,
Yeah.
a toothbrush. Just fill it up with, things that a child that in that age would be appropriate for them.
Sure.
And
And again, look how simple that is. And if it fits in the box, it can go.
right,
Which is great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And stuffed animals. I picked up some stuffed animals the other day after Valentine's Day on clearance. So it's never too soon to start shopping for your
Well,
box.
and that's, I think, I know that we call it Operation Christmas Child, and I know that, that not all the boxes even arrive at Christmas time.
Right.
But the important thing is that all throughout the year, they're still receiving boxes and being able to deliver them and those
Sure.
kinds of things, which is an important thing.
Yeah.
It's, and again, if, maybe sometimes the best time to do this is not necessarily even around the Christmas time, but now we're getting to be Easter here in a couple
Sure.
weeks, and so maybe some group might want to take that on as a part of their project or do
Sure.
some of those things.
Right.
So in terms of doing that, so how would they get all these things to you? So if a group wants to do it or an individual wants to do it, how would they get their shoe boxes or whatever it is to you guys?
The third week of November each year is National Collection Week. This year it's November 12th through the 19th. And you can go to the Operation Christmas Child website and put in your zip code.
And is that the www.samaritanspurse?
Right.
Without an apostrophe.
Right.
But at www.samaritanspurse.org.
Right.
And that's the website.
Right.
Okay.
And then you'll look for Operation Christmas Child, and there's a drop-off locator, which is not populated right now because during the coming months, the drop-off locations will be submitting the hours. They'll be open for the coming year. So in the fall,
Yeah,
you'll be
so
able.
in the fall, everybody will be
right.
able to see that. But they can start packing their boxes and
Sure,
everything now.
right.
And just, have them ready.
Right.
Okay.
So then that third week of November, you'll take it to the drop-off location closest to you, or that's convenient for you, even like if you work somewhere that, it's easy for you to go to one in that town, that's fine too. And just drop it off and we'll take it from there.
Yep. And so they'll send to one of the 8 processing centers, and then those 8 processing centers, figure out where they're going to send them in the world, and they go. And if they wanted to, now you said this comes from the website too?
Yes.
All right, so if you wanted to track your box, and you don't have to do
You
this
don't have
part if you
to.
don't
Right.
want to.
No.
But if you're interested to see where your box goes, which I think is a great thing for kids,
Yeah.
it's just like, if you get your kids to pack a box for some other kid,
Right.
that would be a great thing to kind of like just say, oh, let's look and see where our box winds
Right.
up.
And there's,
Yeah.
it's encouraged sometimes include maybe a family picture or
Yes.
contact information.
note.
Because we get
Yeah.
stories back about someone being able to make contact with their shoebox packer in the States. I mean, that doesn't happen every day, but those are really neat stories when they're able to do that. And it really gives the kids a feeling of satisfaction when that does happen.
Sure. So in terms of this, some people are going to say, some people might be critical of this and say, hey, this isn't going to change the world or anything, and so what would you do to say to speak to some of the naysayers out there that says, well, what good is this really doing? Is it changing anything in the world?
I do think it changes things. We've heard about Alex. There was a young girl who actually went to school here at Ozark Christian College. She was from Russia, and she received a shoebox as a child. And they just talk about the hope it gives them to think that someone cares for them, and I just think it changes their lives. So
We talked about Alex's story, but Elena's story, her parents worked several miles away from their home. This was north of Moscow somewhere.
Sure.
So she and her sister were basically foraging for themselves, and they talked about searching around the hillsides for something to eat. Her family was paid, her parents were paid in alcohol as their salary. So eventually they were separated, and they ended up in an orphanage. And she talks about how that she also felt in her heart that what hope is there? Why am I existing? That, and so it's really yes, it's small items monetarily, but to these kids, many of them have never received a gift like this before, and so it just really instills a sense that there is somebody that cares about me.
we hear lots of stories that it's the first gift they've ever received.
Yeah, well, and I think that's worth a little something right there, just to be able to give to a child somewhere else around the world to do some of those things. So right here in our own area, we've had, not only just the Alex, we got which we had the story on, the clip on, but we also had that whole business of having one of those girls actually spend 4 years right here in the Joplin
Right.
area.
That's correct.
Right.
Decided she wanted to take up ministry.
Right.
For a life, which I think is, kind of amazing that, again, she wants to kind of pay that forward. I find it interesting, that sometimes we don't realize what those little, now this wouldn't be necessarily a random act of kindness, but if you want to consider it that way, considering that she's like, I'm going to pack a box, I'm going to send it around the world, I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm going to send it with a little bit of love in hopes that it'll make a difference in the life of a child,
Absolutely.
which is interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so you've been involved with this how many years?
Well, you talk about packing with your children, that's how we got started. Our
There you go.
church they're packing shoe boxes, so it was a good way to teach our daughters, how to give to someone else, so we started there. And then eventually our church became a drop-off location, so I started volunteering at the drop-off location, and I would go home and talk about it. And one year Jeff said, if you'll do that, I would always do it during the week when the girls were at school and Jeff was at work, and he said, if you'll do that, sign up for Sunday, I'll go with you, So then we started that, and so it's just progressed.
Well, so now, do you guys pastor as well, or do you just regular
We're just
folks in the
regular-
pews?
Just regular folks.
Regular pew Christians.
Yep.
There you go. So never underestimate how the Lord can suck you in when you get going on a particular type of ministry. I always find that amazing, because again, I've talked to a lot of pastors around here, but I think it's great that you guys are actually not pastors, that you're just actually, folks who sit in the pew,
Yeah.
like just
And
everybody
there
else.
are thousands of folks like us through the United States. That really is one of the things that, as I looked at a ministry to be involved in, the structure, the organization, the credibility is really awesome with Samaritan's Purse, and so it's something you can be proud to be part of. We were talking about area involvement. We had about 163 churches that participated
Just from our area.
From our area this last fall.
That's amazing. Yeah,
And,
that's great.
21 community groups and a whole bunch of individuals. Over 15,000 shoeboxes from our 12-county area.
That's wonderful.
That-
Well, we're here today talking with, Jeff and Ellen Gibson about Operation Christmas Child. So we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Don't go away, and we'll be back to wrap up right after this break.
The SANE program, or Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner program, is a program established to provide a coordinated, specialized care to patients or women or men who've been the victim of sexual assault.
The SANE program is really designed to be a collaborative community response to sexual assault.
It's really important to make sure that it's not just the report or the forensic, but they get all of the testing that might be needed for their health.
It's also important to know that you don't need to know if you want to press charges or not. We don't get law enforcement involved unless you request it.
I just want to express to the victim that it is never your fault. You always have the right to say no, and that it's your body. So if you say yes one time, it doesn't mean every time.
I think it's important that sexual assault victims remember they've been victims of a crime, and crime victims do not pay for those services.
Well, thank you again for joining us for another Sunday morning on Faith in Our Hometown. We've been talking about it today. I know it sounds a little strange, but we're talking about Operation Christmas Child right here the week before Easter. But it is something that's very doable for any family, for any group, anyone that would like to do that. Before I forget about it, I want to put up the phone numbers and the email address for our local area coordinators, Jeff and Ellen Gibson. So that's j.e.gibson@sbcglobal.net. And the phone number is 417-529-0089. 417-529-0089. Again, local church members just got involved with their own kids packing some boxes at one point in time. And now they're acting as the local area coordinators to make sure that these boxes can go all over the world. Again, just something simple, but there's a little ripple effect of something that folks in our faith communities right here in Joplin can be doing to reach out to people around the world. Come back and join us again next week for Faith in Our Hometown.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.